For centuries, we've had a map for how our economic world works. Well, that map is about to be completely torn up. Today, we're not just looking back at old charts. We're stepping into brand new territory, an economy that is being totally rewritten by artificial intelligence.
For the first time in our history, we have to ask this question, and we have to take it seriously. The arrival of AI isn't just a new tool like the steam engine or the computer. No, this one challenges the very core belief that our economies have been built on for centuries, the idea that human thought, human decision-making is what creates value.
And what this slide shows you is the absolutely staggering speed and scale of this shift. Look, the first industrial revolution replaced human and animal muscle. That was a huge shock to the system. But this revolution is replacing our minds, our cognition, our ability to think and reason. And it's doing it, conservatively, 100 times faster. Our laws, our education, our social safety nets, they just weren't built for a change this fast.
To really get why this is such a rupture, we've got to first understand the world that's about to be shattered. So let's take a quick look at that old map. The economic operating system we've all been running on for the last 250 years. For the longest time, the main story was Adam Smith's invisible hand. The idea at its core is that the whole system works because of what millions of individuals do every day. Your ambition, my ambition, all of our self-interest, it gets channeled by the market into progress and wealth for everyone. The system is literally powered by human action. And even the most famous critique of that system, from Karl Marx, still put people right at the center of everything. His whole theory was that human labor, the time, the sweat, the skill that a person puts into something, was the one and only source of all economic value. So as you can see, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Smith's markets, Marx's labor, or even Keynes's government spending. There's a common thread running through all of it. And that thread is value comes from human work, human thought, and human choices. That fundamental assumption, it's what's breaking apart right now.
Okay, so that brings us to the rupture itself. See, AI isn't just changing the rules of the game, it's literally replacing the players. And unlike past revolutions that hit manual labor, this one is aimed right at the heart of the modern professional class. This leads to a really important new idea, knowledge deflation. Just think about it for a second. If an AI can do the job of a senior programmer, a graphic designer, or a financial analyst for just pennies, what happens to the market value of all that specialized human knowledge? It just plummets. All those years you spent in college are suddenly in direct competition with a machine that learned it all over a weekend. And this is not a theory. This is happening right now. Companies, especially in tech and other service industries, are finding out they can get the same or even more work done with up to 80% fewer human employees. This isn't just trimming the fat, This is like removing the skeleton of the company. And that creates a crisis that goes so much deeper than your bank account. For generations, if someone asked, "Who are you?" your answer was probably tied to your job. I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm an engineer. If that work vanishes, we don't just have an unemployment problem. We have a massive social crisis of identity and purpose on our hands. So this new world that AI is building is just full of these weird counterintuitive twists. And the biggest one is a paradox that's born from AI's own success. It's called the paradox of abundance. Okay, let's just walk through the chain reaction here, step by step. First, AI makes producing things incredibly cheap and efficient. That's great, right? But it leads to mass automation of jobs. Now, without jobs, people don't have salaries. And without salaries, nobody's buying anything, so consumer demand just completely tanks. And what happens then? The whole capitalist engine grinds to a halt. All of a sudden, an idea like universal basic income stops sounding like some socialist fantasy and starts looking like a practical tool you might need just to create customers and keep the whole system from collapsing. This enormous shift basically puts us at a huge fork in the road. It's a fundamental choice about what our society is even going to look like from here on out. One path leads to a future that looks a lot like a new kind of feudalism. We could end up in a world of techno-feudalism, where maybe a few giant tech companies own the big, powerful AI models, the actual means of cognitive production. And the rest of us, we'd basically be serfs, paying them a toll just to think, to create, or to even participate in the economy. The parallel here is, well, it's pretty striking. The old feudal lord owned the land and made you pay a tax to use his roads. The new lord owns the AI models and charges you a fee for every single API call. every time you need the AI to think for you. They don't just own the factories anymore. They own the very infrastructure of intelligence itself. But there is another path, and it's being built with things like open source AI, decentralized data, and blockchain. These technologies offer a really powerful alternative. They could create a future where we as individuals can actually own and control our own data and even our own AIs. A future that preserves our individual freedom in a world that's becoming more and more automated.
Now, let's talk about what might be the most mind-bending part of all this. What happens when AI can perfectly fake reality? I'm talking about videos, audio of your family members, anything. The entire concept of truth suddenly gets incredibly cheap and almost worthless. So this forces a really basic economic question. In a world with an infinite supply of free, convincing fakes, what is the one thing that becomes incredibly rare and therefore incredibly valuable? It's not gold, it's not oil, it's proof. It's verifiable truth. In this new economy, the most important currency might not be dollars or Bitcoin. It's going to be reputation. Your provable history of keeping your word, of making good decisions, of being trustworthy. This trust capital, as some are calling it, could end up being way more important than what's in your wallet. So after all this disruption, this crazy new territory we're entering, what does it all mean for you? Where do you find your value in this new world? Pretty soon, we're going to be swimming in a sea of AI-generated content. Books, articles, music, code, business strategies, all of it flawless and all of it created for basically zero cost. In that world, the value of just making one more thing drops to almost nothing. And that's where the big pivot is. When you have infinite content, the value isn't in creating one more piece of it. The real value is in the uniquely human skill of curation, the ability to sift through the noise, to apply taste, to have good judgment. It's not about writing the song. It's about knowing which song is going to make people feel something. Because when you boil it all down, there are things an AI just can't do. It can mimic empathy, sure, but it can't actually feel it. It can be programmed with ethical rules, but it can't make a truly tough, nuanced ethical call. And it absolutely cannot create a real, genuine human connection. All those things we used to call soft skills, they're about to become the hardest, most valuable assets there are. And that really brings us to the final, most crucial point. In this coming world of AI-driven abundance, the ultimate scarce resource is you, your unique point of view, your proven reputation, your humanity. So the real challenge ahead isn't just about learning to compete with machines. It's about learning to become more creative, more empathetic, and more fundamentally human than ever before.